back to the channel, another It's Tadpole MMA amateur breakdown and prediction video. This week we've got Rob Font versus Cody Garbrandt in the main event, but like always, before we look ahead, we'll look back on last week. It was a very entertaining event to watch. I still did quite well in terms of my verdict predictions. I only hit 2 of the 6 fights, but what we hit, we cashed in on big. In terms of the betting, we went 1.5 units in the positive, which was good, hence, or courtesy of some more value selections in the single plays section. That'll take us into it. My best call of the night was Andre Muniz via a first round submission. I saw verdict posted, a photo, 1% of predictors chose that outcome, and everyone was talking shit in the comments going, ugh, whoever called that has no idea what they're talking about, chasing XP. Well, the Tadpole told you all about it about 6 days prior to the event, so if you missed it, I apologise. But you should just be sorry to yourself, because we also cashed that as a single play at $5, which was incredible value. That wasn't even just for Andre, that was for the fight to end via submission, which was ridiculous. Of course, that was one leg of the multi as well, just a double last week. The prior leg was the Vernada Grundy fight to end via submission. Never looked likely, but that was due to Lando Vernada's incredible takedown defense, defended 17 of 20 attempts from Mike Grundy, which was tough to watch being on a submission in that bout, but pretty impressive nevertheless from Lando, the groovy man. So pretty good event all in all. My worst call of the night, there were a couple, but I'm gonna say Tony Ferguson. Hanging my hat on that selection. Never looked likely. From the bell, he looked out of sorts on the feet, slow, really conservative and tentative, and Dariush, like I thought he would have, had a strength advantage, a massive strength advantage, and just controlled Ferguson. I don't know where he goes from here. All his stuff on social media since, he still remains very positive, but it's hard as a fan to remain positive on his future prospects. As for this week, we've got 2 formula bets. Thank you, the formula, because last week didn't give us anything, but we've got that to look forward to. We've also got another couple of single plays plus the multi as always. So without further ado, we'll get to the bottom of the verdict card. Jack Hermansson versus Edmund Shahbazian. Jack Hermansson 1.49 times and $1.64. Edmund Shahbazian 3.03 times and $2.20. Surely this fight moves further up the main card come fight night, because this is ridiculous to be this low. But if it is, whatever, it's going to be a great start to the verdict slate, because it's an incredible fight with real implications in the middleweight division. Enough rambling though about the positioning of the bout. The big thing speaking to me in this fight is Edmund's massive hole in his cardio. Jack Hermansson is the complete opposite. He has no holes in his conditioning. His conditioning is impeccable, and that matches with his volume. He is always doing something. The fact that this is 3 rounds does help Edmund's case, but that didn't matter against Derek Brunson. He still got finished in the 3rd round, and after the first, his volume went through the floor. To give Shahbazian, props where it is due, he is a great fighter, very dangerous. His striking is very pretty to watch. He's got lots of techniques. His boxing is solid. He fights super long. He doesn't kick the legs. That is my one knock on his striking. But, there's no doubting his power. All finishes coming in the first round, 8 of which via knockout. But yeah, he's looked very average in every fight that's been extended past the first. So if Hermansson can survive the first round, I'm pretty positive that he wins this fight. That's the question that you've got to answer for yourself though. Because Jack Hermansson, he has been finished 4 times in his career. 2 times via submission, 2 times via knockout. I don't necessarily think the knockout losses are a durability problem. but he can get cracked. As for the jiu-jitsu, Edmund, he is really good on the mat. He's only got one pro submission, but he's won jiu-jitsu competitions as a teenager. Yeah. The thing is, Jack Hermansson, he's got that sneaky European grappling. He's very capable on the mat. Loves his bully chokes. In terms of defense on the mat, it's worse than Edmund's. Edmund's technique is better. But once Jack gets to the positions he wants to, he is very, very strong. Half guard, side control, those wrestling positions. He loves that Joker-tine as well, the modified gi. And, I do think Jack is overall the stronger guy. He's awkward, but very strong and very strong in the clinch. Yeah. It's a tricky one because I think Edmund's going to land and he's going to have a good first round as he always does. But then Jack, if he gets through that, he's going to overtake with volume, pressure, more kicks and damage as well. So I'm taking Jack Hermansson. I'm taking a third round knockout at 8.68 times. I like it. As for the third round, Jack Hermansson has actually gotten 4 knockouts in the third frame, which is unusual and atypical for sure. Yeah. I think Edmund's jiu-jitsu is better. So that's why I haven't rode on a submission play, which is also shorter on the multiplier. So yeah, I think he can stay safe, but I think he gets pounded out. Ground and pound finish for the Joker. Next fight along, David Vorak versus Howland Peder. David Vorak 1.45 times and $1.60. Howland Peder 3.22 times and $2.26. As for the layout of this fight, I'm predicting that it probably takes place at a distance when they're both standing, which dimensionally favours Howland Peder. He is the taller guy. But you just have to look at a few fights, and David Vorak is very, very quick to close distance. And his reach, it's not lacking. He pretty much matches Peder in that attribute. Another thing David Vorak does a lot is he kicks the legs. He targets them a ton. What that is going to do is it's going to stunt the movement of Peder, because Peder is a good striker and he loves to be on the feet at a range. He's got nice technique and he has solid volume. But his defense isn't great. He's very susceptible to the low kick, which he doesn't utilize either. He doesn't really kick the lower half that frequently. As for the conditioning, shouldn't be a problem unless there's weight issues. Both guys down here at 125. The ground game, this splits them for me. David Vorak would seem to have a big advantage. He's got 7 pro submissions. Like Jack Hermansson, he's got that really underrated Euro grappling, hailing from Czech Republic. And, he is really clean with his back takes and fishing for submissions. He loves the rear naked. And once down there, I think he is very active and very offensive. Howland Peder's takedown defense, it's solid. He keeps his feet moving underneath his hips. And apart from the Rogerio Bontorin fight that was stopped due to a cut that Peder sustained, we haven't actually seen Peder controlled on the mat for meaningful amounts of time. So it's kind of a tough one to nut out there. David Vorak being the better grappler, but Peder's defensive wrestling and scrambles actually being quite high level. Durability on the feet, both guys have gotten 1 knockout loss, but both occasions were doctor stoppages due to cuts, so I don't see any issue there for either guy. But Vorak would seem to have the power advantage. He sits into his shots a little more, whereas Howland Peder likes to kind of stick and move. He's more of a volume guy. I'm going to take David Vorak. Howland Peder is a little snip of value on verdict, but I'm not going to take him. I think Vorak can be the pressure guy, not give Peder that space that he likes, which, in his fights previously, he does let that space in front of him get conceded. Carcara France was on to him. Bontorin closed the distance. I think he's going to get leg kicked the fuck out of David Vorak. He's going to eat that up. I think, Peder, defensive wrestling is good, but he is going to be forced to lean on that here and forced to wrestle defensively. And I am actually going to have a stab at some value on verdict here with the David Vorak submission at 29.78 times in round 1. The big worry for this play is Peder's takedown defense. And Dvorak hasn't really got his grappling going thus far in the UFC. But I think the leg kicks are going to help his entries. I think the pressure is going to help his entries. And I think he's going to get him down, climb his back, and submit him, which should be the game plan because Peder's most comfortable on the feet. So, let's go, David. Next fight along, Felicia Spencer versus Norma Dumont. Felicia Spencer 1.21 times and $1.60. Norma Dumont 5.70 times and $2.26. When I read this fight on paper, I thought it was pretty clear cut. When I actually went into it, watched some tape, looked at the statistics, it was trickier than I anticipated. But I'm not going to overcomplicate my thinking. This is women's MMA and I'm going to take Felicia Spencer. The reasons why, she's proven in her career, she's proven at the weight class. Those are two things that Norma Dumont has not or is yet to prove. Styles, skills, Dumont is the better striker. She's got nicer hands. She probably has a power advantage as well. But Felicia's bread and butter is the grappling, and she's a very strong girl. She's a proper 145er. Dumont does have grappling chops. She has some submission wins, but it is not on the same level as Spencer's. I'd be more confident with Spencer here if she didn't look to be at such a strength disadvantage against Amanda Nunes, but that's going to happen against Amanda Nunes. She is incredibly strong. The best female MMA fighter ever. So that's going to happen, and I feel like I have to look past that to appropriately acknowledge Felicia's skill set. And in terms of being outmuscled by Nunes, Norma Dumont is not going to outmuscle her. She's a bantamweight, moving up 10 pounds, where Felicia's made her career. In terms of game plan for Felicia, holy fuck. I think she's going to clinch her. She's not going to want to be at range. And once she's there, she's very good at biding her time and then scooping the base, finding herself on top and getting busy. She is active on the mat, which you need your fighters to be, especially in this day and age where grappling does not seem to be paid its dues at the judging panel. But yeah, Spencer, she does throw the ground and pound, and then she does always hunt the submission. She loves the back takes. 50% of her wins via submission. So yeah, at distance, I'm not going to fucking lie to you guys. It's going to get a bit dicey for Felicia. She has a great chin. She's proven that. But you don't want to lean on that. And Dumont does possess okay power. And she is the better striker. But I predict that Felicia's going to offer no space. Aim for that smothering route of victory, which I'm going to back in. In terms of a verdict outcome, all the values on Norma Dumont. I usually love the value plays, but I'm just going to have a basement 100 XP wager on the Felicia decision at 1.9 times. Very vanilla from the tadpole on this one, but it's women's MMA. Let's not get it twisted. Justin Tafa versus Jared Vandeera. Justin Tafa 1.30 times and $1.48. Vandeera 4.32 times and $2.52. I won't be long. This is a shitty fight, if I'm perfectly honest. Both guys are big. Both guys come in at the 265 pound limit. Vandeera has the height. Strength is a toss-up. At striking range, even though he's at a height and reach disadvantage, I prefer Justin Tafa. I love his kicking game. Massive power in his kicks. The leg kicks are thunderous. His fucking legs are tree trunks. They're going to play a big role in this fight in setting up his entries because he is a little reckless on the front foot. We saw that when he got slept via a swift counter from Jorgen De Castro in his UFC debut. So yeah, the leg kicks are going to assist him to close that gap in range. But yeah, neither guys have good movement. Flat-footed as fuck. And that's why I just don't really... Not really looking forward to this fight. As for the ground game, Vandeera, he does have a submission threat. He holds a submission threat somewhat, and I would say that Justin Tafa doesn't. But Vandeera's defensive wrestling is atrocious, and I actually expect Tafa to shoot takedowns in this fight and secure them. He attempted takedowns against Carlos Felipe. He didn't get them, but he attempted them. And I think he can catch Vandeera off guard with that route here. Kind of similar to what we saw with Rogerio de Lima against Maurice Green, which was a horribly uneventful 3-round heavyweight bout. And I'm predicting another horribly uneventful 3-round heavyweight bout. Of course, these guys are heavyweights, 265. Both could knock the other out. But yeah, and both have been slept before. Chin issues, query. But I like Tafa's volume on the feet. I prefer his striking. I do hate almost everything else. Neither guy is reliable, but at 7.78 times, the Tafa decision is a decent shout. I think he can be disciplined. I think he can out-volume Vandeera and then hopefully lean on some of that wrestling to secure some control time and take it on the cards. Which, all in all, is actually kind of a crazy call. I'm pretty sure everyone that I have heard is on a knockout for either guy. But, when this happens, Justin Tafa does out-volume and wrestle to a decision victory. Tell them the Tapo told you. Co-main event, Xiaonan versus Carla Esparza. Xiaonan 1.62 times and $1.80. Carla Esparza 2.60 times and $2 flat. So Carla Esparza, right, she's the Cookie Monster. I think she should rename to the Decision Monster. She has not secured a finish since she won the inaugural strawweight belt in 2014 over Rose Namajunas. And she loves seeing what the judges have to say. She's all for inclusion, this lady. Skill sets, Xiaonan, she's the better striker. For sure, she kicks, she's got better volume, she's got better power. Even though she's a bit pillow-fisted, she hasn't secured a knockout in the UFC. All her knockouts were on the regional scene. But still, she's going to have a power advantage over Carla Esparza, whose striking isn't shit. Esparza's, well, it is shit, it ain't shit. You'll get me. Esparza's striking defense isn't bad. Her head movement's not good though, and she does get cracked. The big thing with Carla Esparza is outside of JJ, Joanna, she just does not lose to strikers. She is a great grappler, probably, well, until we see more from Tatiana Suarez and co, she is the best grappler of this strawweight division. She is relentless on her entry. She is a pressure fighter. She strings takedowns together. She can offer the mat return threat. She has great balance. And she's got the desperation ability as well, which may be lent on here because her cardio hasn't looked up to scratch in her last couple. But even in those fights, that desperation ability, when hurt, when tired, she still manages to get fights to the mat. It's going to be tough. Xiaonan, her takedown defense isn't terrible and her scrambles are good. She doesn't really get controlled at all. But this is by far the best grappler she's ever fought. She did fight Claudia Gadelha, who is a grappler, but I feel like Claudia has really regressed, and her grappling at baseline or at her best still wasn't as good as Carla's, in my opinion. Another quick factor, size. Carla Esparza, 5'1", very, very small lady. It's not going to matter. She's always been like that. Her reach is okay, but Carla fought Marina Rodriguez in her last fight and was at like a fucking 10-inch height disadvantage. So it won't matter. This is going to be close. It'll be a split decision because Esparza will get pieced up on the feet and then spend 2.5 minutes in top control. and it'll be like, how the fuck did we score that? But Esparza decision, 3.20 times. That's the verdict call. And it is the first of the formula bets. Single play, Carla Esparza, $2.05. I'll run that back for you at the end of the video. But yeah, a 24% perceived edge on the Carla line here, on the money line, which you love to see. 24%, that's enough for the tadpole to have a little stab. Main event, Rob Font versus Cody Garbrandt. Rob Font 2.68 times and $1.84. Cody Garbrandt 1.59 times and $1.96. This is an elite main event. Oh my god, the bantamweight division is fucked off its tits at the moment. As exciting of a division that there is. Worded that horribly, but you guys know what I mean. I get excited. And this has serious title implications, this fight. As for how it plays out, it is going to be a boxing masterclass. Neither guy kicks a lot, but both guys get hot and heavy with the hands and are fucking extremely talented. As for how it rolls, Rob Font, he has been incredibly susceptible to the leg kicks in previous fights. He is a long, rangy fighter. But, Cody doesn't throw it that much, and I think that plays big time in his favour. Cody Garbrandt, chin issues. We'll come across that later, but just flagging it now. Because he does have chin issues, but his defense is actually really good. His IQ is lacking, but when he is locked in, his striking defense is so good. Both of their striking defense abilities are incredible. Their head movement is in check. Footwork is superb, both offensively and defensively. To split it, I think that Rob Font is the looser counter striker. He's very nice on the step back in transition whilst moving, whipping through southpaw orthodox and managing to find his own shots. Whereas Cody is probably better at that bait and wait method. No better example than the Rafael Alsunsao knockout, which was fucking brutal. But he can lure and draw his opponents into range, and he's very good at doing that. So still a great counter striker, but I feel like Rob Font's a better counter striker on the move. As for a wrestling game, if either guy goes for takedowns, I see it being Rob Font, but I don't see him completing. Cody's never been taken down in the UFC. If it does hit the floor, Rob Font, he's definitely got a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu grappling edge, but I just don't see it actually making it to the mat. Yeah. Dimensionally, 6-inch reach advantage for Rob Font. I usually don't like to read into those stats, attributes too much, but with this being what I imagine to be a predominantly stand-up fight and a boxing fight at that, pretty much in its entirety, I think it's actually a massive factor. I think he's going to be able to hit without getting hit. It's going to afford him the extra space to land his shots. Like I said, to land his counters on the step back while Cody is trying to find the inside range, and then also be able to land on the outside and not get baited into Cody's big shot like he wants, like he fights like. But yeah, it's going to be a fucking good fight because both guys pressure, both guys, they're going to be on the front foot and on the back foot at times. They're both going to land. There's going to be damage both sides. Yeah. Power to Cody, volume to Font, durability and IQ, that definitely can't go to Cody. I like both guys, I really do, but I'm taking Rob Font via a first round knockout at 3.29 times. Cody's been slept 3 times, twice in the first, once in the second. 6 of Font's 8 knockouts have been first rounders. I think these boys get into it early. It might be a silly call in terms of the early call. Gone the early crow. With these guys feeling each other out a bit, first main event for Rob, but they're both going to be aggressive, and yeah, that takes me to the bets transition, because my second formula bet of the night is Rob Font at the money line at $1.84, a 23% perceived edge on that line. So I love that, and that is based on the statistics of verdict favourites being betting underdogs, and it just not working out very well for them. Tony Ferguson, yeah, you were a verdict favourite and a betting underdog, and we saw what happened there. So those are the two formula plays. Esparza at the money line at $2. Can actually get $2.05 on Sportsbet right now. And the Font money line is at $1.90 on Bet365. So they're two of the best prices I could find. 1 unit on those apiece. One of the other singles that I'm playing is I'm taking Rob Font in round 1, 2, or 3 at $3 on Sportsbet. I've kind of contradicted myself here with the Rob Font is an early play, a silly play, with them filling each other out. But no, I'm sticking true to my guns with Cody's early knockout history, his lack of IQ, silly aggression, and Rob Font's early finish history himself. So, and that could be a knockout or a submission in round 1, 2, or 3. So if it does hit the mat and Font exploits his grappling advantage or his submission advantage at the very least, you've got that coverage there. So $3 on Sportsbet, I feel like that's a great price if you're on Rob Font. The last single play, we've got to roll it back to one of the early fights on the verdict card, and it's a David Vorak bet, and I'm taking him via knockout or submission at $4.50 on Sportsbet. 2 of Halley and Paver's 3 losses have been via finish, 1 knockout, 1 sub. I know the knockout was a cut, but the stats do what they do. David Dvorak, he's got good power, good leg kicks, good pressure, and has that ground game. If he can get Paver down, I like the submission. But he's also notched 7 knockouts, or 8 knockouts, or 6 knockouts. Fact check in the comments. It's a few knockouts. So he's got ability. I like the bet at odds, $4.50. Multi-time. Let's rattle it off. Let's finish it. Close it out strong. We're taking Jack Hermansson at the money line. Taking Felicia Spencer at the money line. Taking Carla Esparza via a decision. And Rob Font via a knockout at $19.24 to 1 over on Sportsbet. I like all those legs. I really do. Yeah. We've gone heavy on Rob Font this weekend. If he loses, the multi loses, 2 single plays lose, and we are looking at a almost guaranteed loss. But I have faith. And so should you. Because the tadpole has been on a bit of a roll. We're up 12 units off the last 2 weeks. As always, what I'm outlaying to you guys, I am on myself. All the single players plus the multi this week have 1 unit on them. All my records, prediction records, verdict records, betting records in the description. Same as my socials. I haven't released a late mail bet in the last month or 2, but my socials will be where that gets released if it does. You don't want to miss it. As for that, next week we've got a week off. The following week is Jairzinho Rosenstrike versus Augusto Sakai, I am pretty sure. And we'll see what happens with that. Thanks for sticking around this long if you have. Don't forget to do all that corny shit. Like, subscribe, comment your bets, your verdict selections. Fight with me. Cheers and catch up.